Welcome to Lavish Hippie channel, and I am Nam Shakti, and this is my friend Charlene. She is a boss mama, and she's single, and she is also a spiritual practitioner, and I absolutely love her. I admire her, and she's one of the persons that I look up to because she's so full of life. She is her own boss, and she is just amazing. And thanks for being here on my channel.
Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure to be a part of what you're doing. I think you're changing the world just one little bit at a time. It's what we all want for ourselves. So thanks for having me.
So I just want you to tell us a little bit about yourself and how did you become a spiritual practitioner, and what is a spiritual practitioner?
Yes, okay, let's start with what a spiritual practitioner is. Let's talk about the teaching itself. It's the religious science teaching, the science of mind, and it was started by Ernest Holmes so many years ago. And when I first came across the teaching, I had already sort of embodied it. I sort of knew as I was coming up that I was connected to something so much bigger than myself. When I found out there was an organized religion that also teaches these things, I was like, get out of here. I'm smacking the guy who took me to church. I'm like, I thought I created this. Other people know what I know too.
Oh, that happened to me too.
And then I started reading Science of Mind, and I'm like, yes! There's some stuff I knew, but it wasn't so contextualized and so concrete and so step by step. So that attracted me, that my thoughts were creating my life, that what I was expecting to happen was what tended to happen to me, and that I needed to just sort of shift and start to expect something better, and then that would be the tendency in my life. So there I was in LA, just sort of living my life as a single person, riding motorcycles and driving my little Jeep, having a good life. I'm 30-something.
Yeah.
And I meet a man, I fall in love with this man, and I have his kid. And he and I didn't really make it together. We made it long enough to make this amazing being. But during that time of a lot of tumultuous, heartbreak when you're pregnant and trying to work on a relationship, I took a class or two at Agape. And I learned how to apply those principles, and I was sold.
You're hooked.
I was hooked.
Yeah.
Because you've been to Agape.
I mean, that's where I started, and
yeah.
I started reading Ernest Holmes books.
Yes.
And just because I was attracted to the law, and the first book was Joseph Murphy, The Power of Subconscious Mind. That was the first book I read. I was 18.
Nice.
And I was so fascinated by it, and then I started reading all his books.
Right.
And when I entered Agape,
and
I went into the library, and I said, these are all the books I have read.
That's
These
awesome.
are the books that I read, and then that was it. I couldn't believe it.
A bunch of people that know what you know, and they come together, and they just being hugged by someone who knows the truth, that just opens your heart. So I think for me too, I found that. And the classes, I started taking classes just to apply the teachings. I don't know how you are, but if I'm at home alone reading a book, that's one thing. But when I'm with a group of people and we're all going to read the next chapter, and we're all going to discuss it that next Thursday, and we're all going to do some writing, and it's a group effort to grow, you're connected to your colleagues, your classmates. It's just so much more palpable.
It is. I'm addicted to classes.
Yeah, me too.
And I have to take them, and when I don't take them, I feel kind of lost. Like, oh no, what am I doing?
Yes, you need your people, and you really bond with the people in class, right? So I have to say that's how I became a practitioner. I hate to say that the reason I became a practitioner was I didn't want to give up those classes. And I was like, what are we doing next? We're all going to become practitioners? Okay, great. And what's a practitioner? So a practitioner is the person who practices the things we learn from Ernest Holmes. And you can practice the teachings as soon as you learn them. But a licensed practitioner is a person who's been trained over a course of 2 years on a very rigorous, applied methodology to make sure we are seriously applying these principles and living a good life. And then we are trained to help other people do so. So I have to say, for the first 2 years, I'm just taking classes, becoming better. And I get bonded with my friends. By now, in this time frame, I've moved from LA to Virginia. And I met a whole new set of people. I've had this little baby who's now 1. And I'm taking more classes through the Place Celebration Center and Falls Church. And so I took some classes with them, and that was the group I really bonded with. And when everybody was moving on to practitioner classes, I looked and said, wait, No more regular classes? I guess I want to be a practitioner. What's a practitioner? So for the first year of practitioner training, you're learning even more in depth how to apply the teachings in your life. You should have seen the demonstrations I created. I shocked myself. Like, I would just apply in a rigorous fashion the teaching, and I ended up manifesting. I remember it was a time when the Northern Virginia area, homes were sold before they were listed. I had a need to get out of a condo and move into a home, but I had no idea how to do it. So I just did a lot of treating, and the lady who babysat for my kid, I went to pick him up. She said, I go, nice townhouse. She said, you want to buy it? I'm like, really? She said, yeah, I'm moving to Texas, me and my daughter, we're moving to Texas. You can buy it, and we could skip the listing. I bought that house from her in like 30 days, and then
That's awesome.
Poor planning on my part. I didn't call the people. I didn't call and plan for movers. I don't recommend this, testing the law, but I did. I had a condo, and I wanted to move all my stuff to this townhouse. I didn't call anybody, and a friend of mine said, you should have called people. Don't expect your friends to just come with the U-Haul. So I pick up the phone and I call a guy, 3 men on a truck. He goes, you know what? We just had a cancellation. We can fit you in. I'm like, woo! So I got moved. They came, boxed up my stuff, moved me. And I just kind of went from one home to another in 30 days. And everyone else was having a hard time doing that. My practitioner classmates were like, Charlene, you're really good at this manifesting. I was like, thank God for the law. I don't recommend poor planning and hoping the law will save you, but it
does save you though. It's faith.
It totally does.
It comes through all the time.
All the time.
So when you don't do the planning, you rely on the law, the law, the universe delivers.
Comes through every time.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And then I'm always shocked. So here's the funny part. I've been a practitioner now for, since 2007. I'm still surprised when I get my miracle. I'm still like, oh, thank you. You would think we get sick of the miracle. It never becomes boring. It never becomes, yeah, of course, there's my miracle. No.
Yeah.
It's always like, yes.
Thank you. And it's just this gratefulness
it is.
for it.
Absolutely. And shock and awe and humility and gratitude.
Yes.
Totally. So yeah, that's how I became a practitioner. Just kind of fell into it.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I definitely am leaning towards a practitioner because when I started taking classes at Agape, and then one of the reverends there came up to me, she's like, you'll be an excellent practitioner.
Yes.
And I was like, what's a practitioner?
That's funny.
Yeah.
Because you're already doing it.
I had no idea, but I was taking classes to become a practitioner, and I never even knew what it was.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then
but it's a consciousness, right?
Yes.
And she could see that in you.
Yeah, and then that's what happened. When I got here to Virginia, I was like, I have to.
Right.
Like, I have to look for a community that's doing the same thing.
We were so happy to have you. I know when you first came, Reverend Sunday said, yeah, and she and her husband used to go to Agape. I'm like, no wonder. I just vibed with you guys when I first met you. That's really cool.
It's like Cali vibes.
It is. I do miss it there. I do miss the one thing when I moved here, I was thinking, if I could just take my Agape, because everything else I can recreate, right? But not my Agape.
We're doing it.
And we are. That's where I was going with that. Yeah. We, in our tiny center, have that big energy of love and unlimited life-giving, that thing that you don't get in every center. It's not everywhere.
Yeah. So we're both part of Centers of Spiritual Living in Leesburg.
Yes.
So if you want to attend to our community center, you'll love it. And it's an excellent place to meet people that are like-minded, that are loving and caring, and are all looking for the same thing.
Right.
Just love and connection.
And so deeply connected with one another.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your singleness and being single and taking care of your son.
Right.
While you taught him at home, right?
I homeschooled my son. Yeah.
And working, and doing all this as a practitioner. And
right.
How was that?
It was interesting. When I first started taking classes, I had to find that the baby was only about 2.5, and I'm taking classes, so I found people to babysit. You know, I'm like, okay, I need you on Thursday nights, 7 o'clock to 10 o'clock, because that's when the classes were. When he got a little older, I would take him with me, and one of the other people at the church had mentioned, give him a Game Boy, and he'll stay quiet. I was like, yeah, but I don't want him lost in videos. I succumbed. I was like, get a Game Boy and hush. And so that turns out to be the best thing that happened to him because now he's a computer genius.
So are you.
And I am too.
You're
right.
a total tech. That's why I call her the boss lady, because she's the boss.
I do run a technology company. But I have to tell you, one thing, when my son started to read, and by now, like, I remember getting my prac license in 2007, so I can't really do the math, but I do know during that last year, he was old enough to read. And I remember in the car on the way to classes, I'd have him remind me, sort of read the first sort of chapter, the first paragraph in the different sections we were told to read. And he would read them, because he's a brilliant reader, and I remember thinking, he is growing up in this teaching. He is going to just know that God is everywhere present, that God is not something you have to supplicate and, give burnt offerings to, that God is right here.
Yes.
And just by reading that to me, he was getting that. And so as I became a practitioner, it was kind of a juggle. I had to juggle being a practitioner with being a mom. That came first. And I knew that if I didn't prioritize, that I would get myself in trouble. I'm one of those people that will do something for other people, but I may not always do it for myself. So becoming a practitioner, which you give back, you give your service. On Sunday, I was one of the people that sometimes in some churches you hold consciousness for the congregation as there's a lot of busyness going. You sit in the back and hold consciousness. I made sure to volunteer to do that because otherwise I'm running so much, when am I going to?
Sit quietly.
Exactly. And then other things, I volunteered for the prayer helpline and for any ministry of prayer because I knew if I'm praying for other people, guess who else I'm praying for?
Yourself.
Yes, because I know that if I wake up in the morning and I only have 5 minutes, I'm probably just going to meditate. Will I launch into a full-blown treatment? Maybe not, because there's all 5 steps and I'll probably just get centered and get going. But if I know I'm praying for you, I'll hold still, I'll do that for you. I don't necessarily do it just for me. So what I found was, by serving other people, I'm serving myself. And I had to do that because as a mom, you kind of put everything else first. You got your kid, homeschooling your child, so now you've got judgment of the rest of the world. Are you doing it right? Every time he makes a grammatical error, it's homeschooler.
Yeah.
He doesn't know his state abbreviations. Homeschooler, shame on you. It's part of the homeschooling community. We joke about the things our kids don't know because they're not forced to stand up in a Pledge of Allegiance every day. You're home. You're not going to do that. So as such, your kid doesn't know a lot of the things that at the end of the day don't really matter that much. So I knew becoming a practitioner was a balancing act. I couldn't put practitionerness all the way in the back, but I couldn't put it all the way in the front of my child. So I balanced it. And some years, I just didn't do it. I took a 2-year leave of absence. I just didn't do it. And then I came back when Reverend Sunday came into town.
Wow.
Yeah, because I
But
just.
it's your calling. Cause
It is.
I mean, if it's calling you back, it's because you meant to do it.
Exactly. And it's a matter of timing. Sometimes, things ebb and flow. So sometimes it will become the most important thing. And other times it's, that can wait. You'll have to go with it and know when that's for you.
So a spiritual practitioner is like a spiritual counselor, right?
It
Like
is.
a coach.
Yes.
So when someone's having a problem or issue, they can call you for coaching, and it's kind of like a coaching session.
It is a coaching
right?
session,
So
spiritual coaching.
So if I'm having some type of issue that I'm trying to find myself, I can just call you.
Yes.
And then I just pay for your time.
Yes.
And then you give me like a whole hour of
I'll
counseling.
give you a whole hour. Yes. In fact, I have a quick story about one of the people that we both know. She called me and she was in tears. I could hear it in her voice. And when it's an emergency like that, I just take care of it. It's not a formal session with a beginning and an ending with a payment involved.
Yes.
I just helped her and I talked her through it. And the first thing I did, and this is what I'll do in every session, I'll remind you who you really are.
Yes.
And that is very comforting if we start from that space, knowing that we're connected and we're all one with, with God or with whatever you call that supreme being, and you know that any sort of representation of any problem or worry, that is not the truth about us. It might be a fact, but it's not the truth. And I take our attention back to the truth. And I told her, I said, that's not the truth of this. This is what is true. There's only health, there's only wholeness, there's only perfect well-being. And she said, but what about the doctors? They said. And I'm like, they can say that, that's their job, and here's what I know.
Yes.
And I'll know it for you until you know it for you. And by the end of the conversation, you could hear she had just calmed down and she just knew things were fine. And then recently she sent me a picture and she shared with her group about the healing that had occurred. And she's like, treatment's awesome. I called my practitioner, and I took part in the joy.
Yes.
That this thing that said, the doctor said, oh, we're going to need to do surgery on it and it's going to cost thousands of dollars. It had her crumpled on the floor in tears, went away. Just, dissolved.
Yes.
It's amazing.
There's a magic when someone else does it for you than when you do it for yourself.
Yes.
Because a lot of times when I do feel kind of crazy, and we would do the treatments in class,
Yes.
and then the other person would treat about something that I was feeling that wasn't working out. It was something about the power of hearing them repeat the truth about what was the truth and what is it, and that's the power.
Absolutely.
About it.
When someone else knows the truth for you.
Yeah.
And it's different. Like, I remember telling Reverend Sunday once that there are times when I need to hear my words from her. Like, I'll tell her something and it helps her, and then she'll say it back to me when I need to hear it. I'm like, who told you that? She's like, you told me that. It sounds better coming from you right now. I'm more likely to believe it when it comes from you. We need that separation, that other, to help us climb out. So we call it deep calls unto deep. And when a practitioner has their consciousness here, and someone feels that they need help, that there's something in the practitioner that calls in the other person, and it rises up to meet it. And it'll happen even if you don't physically call. I had a practitioner years ago, and he was so good. I would call him, he'd talk me through it, and I would feel so loved, and he'd get me there. Eventually, all I had to do was think about calling him, and I would heal. And he said, no fair, you still have to call. You can't skip your appointments.
That's funny.
I was like, no, we're good. I figured out what you would do, and I'm good now.
Yeah.
But it is something about when someone's holding that high watch, it raises you up.
And you hold that for that person,
Yeah.
which is amazing.
And I think for yourself, too, when you hold it, you remember. You change. It changes because there's no separation, right?
Yes, we're one.
Yeah.
And that energy just connects us when you're treating me.
That's right.
We become connected.
That's right.
Because we become this one.
We become aware of it.
Yes.
Yep. So cool.
So awesome.
I know. I tell you, and sometimes I know for me, if I start believing that we're separate, that's the beginning of that sort of kind of a low level of depression, maybe, if you think you're in it alone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have you experienced that too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Before, now it's like when I do feel some kind of sort of separation, I do
Yeah.
come back to doing treatments for myself.
Yes.
And just going back to the core, remembering that I'm one with everyone.
Yes.
That's, going through the same thing, and then I connect myself with that person, knowing that together we're healing and
That's
working
true.
together.
Now, recently you were telling me, I don't know if you want to share this, you can cut it if you feel like it, but you recently hurt your back.
I did.
And you felt that pain of the body. I recently had food poisoning, and I felt the pain of the body. I'm not used to feeling the pain of the body, even though as I get older, it probably will come more often.
Yeah.
I started to have compassion for those people. Did you
Yes, yes, because my husband hurts his back a lot.
Yeah.
And then I literally just kind of bent over a little, and I couldn't, my back froze.
Ooh.
I threw myself on the floor, and I crawled to my room up
Oh
the
my
stairs. I
gosh.
couldn't put pressure on my hands. And I laid in bed, and I was in so much, it was worse than contractions.
Yes.
And I had both my kids naturally.
Oh my gosh.
It was
That's
so
pretty bad.
bad. No, it was so
Yeah,
bad.
I know.
I couldn't take it. And I called Fred. I was like, I don't know what to do. It was horrible.
Yeah.
And then I started having compassion for him, because I wouldn't before. Like, I would.
Right.
Like, but it wasn't
it's here.
like
It's
that.
this kind of compassion.
Yes.
It's not this kind
It
of.
came down to my heart, exactly. And now I have so much compassion
It's
for him.
so true.
And just everyone else.
Me
'Cause
too.
I taught a class in Kundalini yesterday,
Yeah.
and I told everyone, just be very careful with your body.
Yes, yes.
Listen to your body.
Yeah.
And it just, I needed it.
You did. I did
Yeah.
too. I mean, I didn't realize how grateful I should be for every moment that I'm not in pain.
Yeah.
Every moment that I'm feeling good, thank you for not being in pain, because when you are in pain, you're just so aware. Other people live like this every day. God bless them. And then as I go through life, I shared this when I gave the talk on Sunday. I had spent that time feeling so horrible just from food poisoning. It was painful. My body hurt. in the bathroom, not doing, it was horrible. And I just thought, how many other people have to show up for life while feeling this way? I happened to get sick on a Sunday. What if it were Monday when I had to show up in a classroom and teach? And I would have still done it because I'm not crazy. I'm not going to give up that money, but I would have been. And as it turns out, that Monday I was kind of dragging. That Tuesday I was kind of dragging. And one person who knows me pretty well said, Charlene, you're not yourself. And I thought, you could tell? Because I was sick.
Aww.
He said, yeah, you're not coming in like, woo.
Yeah.
Now, by Wednesday I was myself.
Yeah, me too.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah. It took me like 3 days. I did a lot of Reiki on myself.
Oh, good for you.
I did, and then it just went away. I was like nothing.
Oh my gosh.
And I did yoga yesterday. I did
And you're
everything.
100%.
100%
Good for you.
My mom calls it aire, air.
Oh,
This
what
is
does that mean?
It means when you like bend over weird, you catch air when your back hurts sometimes.
Oh.
It calls it air, and that's when they do the sucking cups. Have you ever heard of the
I've
sucking
never
cup?
heard of the sucking
It's
cups.
some Mexican thing.
But it probably works.
Oh, it did.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I'm like nothing.
Really?
I was like nothing. Oh, and after I drank my green juices on Monday, I felt better. On Tuesday, I was like, I drink 3 juices a day, the green
Wow.
with the Vitamix, so I mixed up my green juices. I was like fine.
Because you're giving your body what it needs to heal
I
itself.
put a lot of turmeric, which is good for inflammation.
Okay, wow.
So,
You've got a lot of skills.
yeah, it was good. I was like, hey. Yeah, it was
really great.
awesome.
That's great. That's
Yeah.
good you have such experience with those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of lay down and I called my mom. Mom, if you were here, what would you bring me? She said, I'd bring you some soup. She goes, why don't you go see if there's a place where you can get pho noodle soup. So I went over and I drove myself.
Always makes you feel better.
And I sat down and I drank. I was like, I hope nobody sees me because I was looking kind of horrible. But yeah, that's what I did for myself. I called my mom and said, what would you do to take care of me, Mommy?
Mamas.
Mhm.
Our mamas are always
Gotta
there
love-
for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, Charlene does take appointments and she does
do.
spiritual healings. I think she's amazing. So if you guys need some kind of coaching through your spiritual life, and she does prayer work and all that stuff, you can always contact her, and I will put her information on my blog. So make sure you go on my blog, which is lavishhippie.com. lavishhippie.com. And there's always a blog with every video that I make, so make sure you check that out. And thank you, Charlene, so much
you for having me.
being here with me and
Thank you,
showing up.
Thank you
We
so
love
much.
you so much. And thanks, guys. And make sure you subscribe to the channel. Satnam.